There's a lot happening across the city of Tulsa these days. An election last night. Health experts say COVID-19 cases are starting to trend down and work is underway to fix some roads, potholes damaged during last week's winter storm.
There's also work being done to deter crime in our city. Tulsa Mayor GT Bynum joins us now to talk about as much as we can fit in this next 5 minutes. Mr. Mayor, of course, we just got through the storms last week. And of course, a year ago, we had that historic winter storm. How did the city do this week?
I think the city did fantastic. We have such a good team out in the field, both driving those trucks to get our streets cleared, but also the team that works around the clock for 24 hours straight to keep those trucks running. You can imagine the extreme weather conditions they're exposed to. And now those same teams are out there fixing potholes that when you have an extreme contraction in temperatures like we've had in the last week, you have a lot of potholes form, and they're out there still working to get all of that cleaned up. So I've heard from so many Tulsans who are appreciative of the work that our crews did, and it shows what our team at the city is capable of when they have the tools to do the job the right way.
Mayor, you and Chief Wendell Franklin are going to be heading to Las Vegas. Tell us what you're going to be doing and how you think could that help crime information in Tulsa and help us to fight crime.
Well, you know, one of our main goals at the city is to be making Tulsa a safer place. And we've really focused on that in the last 5 years from a staffing standpoint, the fastest pace of hiring in Tulsa Police Department history. But we also know that manpower isn't the only thing. We also need to make sure that our officers in the field have the best technology that equips them to fight crime and to follow up on crime. And one of the things that we've seen in other cities around the country that both helps our existing officers but can also serve as a real force multiplier is called a real-time information center. It's where you have cameras stationed in high crime areas throughout your city, and they all feed back to a central location where the police department can monitor things as they're occurring and relay information to officers in the field, and also use that video to follow up on crimes that occur. And one of the best, from what we've heard from the federal agencies that have been great proponents of this, one of the best in the country is actually in Las Vegas. It's had a huge impact on crime reduction there. And so Chief Franklin and several of my colleagues from the city council and I will be going out there later this month to see it firsthand and to think about how we might implement that here in Tulsa to make Tulsa a safer city.
Well, the legislature started their session this week, and one of the things that was getting a lot of buzz is eliminating the grocery sales tax. That could go down to each city or county making their own decision, but how would that impact us in Tulsa?
Well, if it is applied to cities, it would be catastrophic. I asked our city finance department to look into just, what amount of our city sales tax is tied to grocery sales, and it's over $20 million a year. So everything I just talked about making Tulsa a safer place, if we were to have to absorb a over $20 million loss in revenue in a year, those are, by the way, over 60% of our operating budget are police officers and firefighters. And so when you're talking about reductions in city funding, that's what takes the hit. And so my hope is that that is not the intent of the governor. I've heard from legislative leaders that it is not their intent to apply this to cities. The state government has a much more diversified revenue base than we have as cities across Oklahoma, where we're the only state in the country that really forces cities to be so heavily reliant on sales tax. And so my hope is that this will work itself out. And if they want to do that with revenue for the state, that is their decision. But it would be a huge adverse impact to making Tulsa a safer city if this is applied to Tulsa and it reduced our revenue by over $20 million in just the first year alone.
The Tulsa Health Department, switching gears again, gave an update to COVID on Tuesday. Dr. Dart says the city's sewage samples show high levels of COVID transmission. The levels, though, are not increasing. Tell us what you're hearing from hospital leaders. I know our hospitals were pretty packed after the holidays.
Now that our hospital levels have remained at high rates, and I have a regular working group with my colleagues on the city council and with Dr. Dart to monitor that data and to get any requests for action that might be directed to us as a city. We really place the expertise here in the hands of the public health experts who are independent in Tulsa, and that's the folks at the Tulsa Health Department in our hospital systems. The hope is that we are now on the downward trajectory long term, but this has been a real pressure, not just on our hospital systems, but on our emergency medical response teams out in the field as well. And I can never encourage enough everybody who's able to get vaccinated and to wear a mask in public places, especially indoors, to help slow the spread of this and to protect yourself and the people you care about from the worst impacts of this virus.
Mr. Mayor, I think we got in as much as we wanted to talk to you today.
Okay.
Thank you very much, as always, Tulsa Mayor
Thank you.
GT Bynum.